21.
It was 21 years ago that Frog Eyes released their first album, The Bloody Hand. Now, after a brief attempt to rebrand themselves as Soft Plastics, they're back with a new album titled The Bees. Here is Frog Eyes frontman Carey Mercer to tell us how a little band from New Zealand thwarted that attempt to rebrand.
I understand that you tried to have a band called Soft Plastics originally, but then there was Soft Plastics here in New Zealand that kept you from doing that. They're down in Wellington, so
yeah. They I think that they emerged as a band maybe a day or two before we did, and
right.
I don't know. I've never actually talked to them just because I don't know, whatever. But it always, I was like, oh, you got there first, like you get it, you know.
And how did you find out they were there?
Someone who works for, someone who in our orbit was like, oh, do you know about this? And I said, no, that's unfortunate. And you kind of see when they registered for Bandcamp or whatever, because I think that's what you do. When you want to become a band, you go to Bandcamp now.
That's kind of what I was wondering about. Is there some kind of registry for band names or something?
Exactly. But there's a scary 3 months where you don't want to register as a band, or I don't know. I mean, so you think of your band name and then you send your record off to the plant.
Right.
And while your record is off at the plant, someone else, I guess, could come in and take your band name. Man. So what we should have done, I guess, is we just registered it. But I don't know, just another in a series of incompetence. But
So Frog Eyes is back.
So Frog Eyes is back, which is fine by me. I guess abandoning Frog Eyes was a mood that we all kind of. Can you relate to that?
I can actually, yes.
Yeah, it's just a developmental milestone where you're like, I would rather not be me for a little while, and it was kind of nice, And then we had no intentions of returning to Frog Eyes, and we actually had laid out the skeletal foundations for another record that would have been approached very much like Soft Plastics, that would have been a kind of a hybrid of electronic drums, songs, kind of like put into the grid, and then acoustic drums played to the grid.
Right.
And when we started to do that, we just kind of looked at each other and was like, okay, I actually really like a lot of I like to listen to a lot of music that is composed like this. I'm not like a, reactionary acoustic drums only kind of person, but we just thought, okay, well, I wonder what the song would just be like if we just, just played it like how we used to play. And it was just like, oh wow, this seems rarefied and wonderful. And so, well, maybe we'll try another song, and like a couple of weeks went by and it was just like, okay, well, this is every cell in my body is screaming just to do this. So I'm not going to ignore the feeling cell in my body. Yeah. And then at the end of it, it was like, oh, right. This is just what we used to do for the last 20 years. This is us, Yeah.
So when you say us, who are you including in that us?
The royal us, the royal we would be me and my partner, Melanie, Melanie Camel, who is my life partner as well as my musical partner. Yeah. Gotcha. So, gotcha. But that's not to, exclude the contributions of everyone else.
Yep. Because I saw in your Wikipedia page, there's a list of ex-bandmates that's about that long.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's right. Yeah, and that speaks to our era. The era that we came up was really like, there's a songwriter.
Yep.
And the songwriter owns. It was kind of like almost like a post Fugazi, like a reaction to the democratic the democratization of music that kind of Fugazi represented, where like there's no songwriter, everyone brings something, and it's just chaos, and then this super cool song gets formed. And then I think the reaction to that was like, oh no, there's like, there's a singular genius,
right,
who actually writes the song and composes everything. And so that was kind of where I came into music in this trajectory, I think, was, there's a singular genius. Therefore, everyone else is just like, moving parts. And I think in our time, the thing that I've learned is that there's, those two polar opposites have synthesized into something like, it's cool if someone comes with a song, but everyone else's contributions should be, everyone should be open to bringing their own ideas.
Gotcha.
And then you get this tension between ideas and modalities, ways of playing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the album is called The Bees. And from what I've read, it's an exploration of the past. Is that accurate? Is that even a thing?
Is it a thing? Yeah, I know. I mean, it's press release talk, I suppose.
The reason I asked that carefully is because I've run into people, quoted things from press releases, and they were like, "Where did you get that from? That's nothing to do with what we're talking. What we're
right,
doing."
right.
Well,
no,
there you go.
That's a bit. I mean, come on, you never read your press release? Like, that's bullshit, if you ask me. That's just bullshit. I mean, most people have a hand in writing their own press release, and definitely every single person you've ever talked to has read their press release.
I'm sure.
So the big, like what I just described, is in a way us reconnecting with our past and just realizing like, right, this is a thing that we do quite well, is just get together, and that push-pull tension between Melanie and I is probably the thing that draws people to the band,
right?
And then these really singular contributions from everyone else too, and then there's that balance, find that. But also just like a lot of it was just me thinking about my own experiences as, making music, being a young person, just kind of realizing like, I don't have to like think about trends or, be speculating, trying to be thinking about what's going to be the next big, musical genre that draws people attention. Not that I ever really thought about that super hard, but to actively not think about it is a different thing. To be like, I already have probably explored enough genres or approaches that there's like really rich stuff if I just look backwards,
right.
And it kind of felt like, in a sense, like if we as a species did that more too in every facet of our lives. It is an anti-capitalist gesture and an anti-technocrat gesture, I think, to be like, well, this whole idea of gaming things is so crappy and speculative, and that you like a real estate market that you'd be there at the exact right moment buying something, which, by the way, actually should be a thing that people fucking live in.
Right.
And you're just there like gaming it, and
so you're not stocking up on cryptocurrency then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I see a lot of parallels in that. I mean, basically I just see neoliberalism everywhere.
Right.
And I think neoliberalism really is an attempt to kind of like warp, manipulate, and profit from the future. And look what future we look, we are in the neoliberal future and it fucking sucks.
Yeah. Now you do have a song called "I Was an Oligarch," which is a term that's being bandied about quite a bit these days for various reasons. But essentially, that song is kind of goes back to what you're talking about, looking at when you were younger and kind of reflecting.
Radio sound is a smile at the gate. It's the creak of the stairs as we dance up to the stairs. I was an oligarch. 19 years just to know I bowed. I cut my hair, I cut my bounds, I rolled them up so I could dance, and now I'm pulled apart.
Yeah, the riches of my little world when I was 19 or 20 and 21 it's shocking. Of course, when I wrote that song, it had a very different world context,
Right.
Yeah. But whatever. Yeah.
And there's a self-referential lyric in there. You kind of rah Carey in there.
Right. Yeah. I threw my own name in. Yeah.
Okay. Very.
Yeah.
So the third person that takes part in the Frog Eyes these days is someone named Shyla. Is that pronounced correctly?
Yeah.
Yep. So who is that? Tell me.
Shyla Seller is first and foremost a really good friend and someone who grew up in a very musical household. Her mom was a piano teacher. And imagine if you just found out that your really good friend, you didn't even know.
Right.
I didn't even know that, we were friends first. And I was like, oh, wait, your mom was a piano teacher? That probably means that you know how to play the piano.
Right.
Like, we should jam. Yeah. But she's also a very kind of, I don't want to say motivated, but she's like really good at just helping people produce things. She does a lot of behind the scenes work for editing. She's an archivist. She works here for the Vancouver Holocaust Museum, archiving artifacts. And she worked for a decade in one of Canada's biggest independent alternate fiction presses, a place called Arsenal Pulp. So she's just like really interesting person that has her fingers in a lot of different scenes, I would say, without dominating any one of them. Yeah. So it's really cool to play with someone like that because she brings a different kind of approach and thinks about things in a different way than if you were just solely ensconced in the musical world, right. That's its own beastly little pit.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So you and Melanie kind of put the tracks together first and then pass them on to her. Is that how the process worked?
Yeah, I'd say so. Melanie and I will lay out the skeletal foundation of the song, and then Shyla will come over and we'll do some kind of demo recording. And a lot of the time actually is spent usually just on the sound, just trying to find a sound that fits in. It's, because there's so much more to playing the synthesizer than just the notes.
Right.
And she plays it more like an organ in the sense that it's not arpeggiated or set to a certain time. She's just playing it like you would play a piano. And to me, it's kind of like she's playing it like you would play an electric guitar.
Okay.
Yeah. So I quite like that. And I like her approach to chords is really neat. And so it's always like, oh, you came, we worked, the song's infinitely richer, 33% richer.
There you go.
I'll say, yeah.
Very good.
And we're playing for our live setup. We're playing right now with a pretty awesome, actually, this guy named Paul Rigby, who plays a lot with Nico Case and was, and is like a huge force, I think, in Nico's career. He just happens to live down the street and he's not always out, doing stuff. So when he's here, hilariously, because he's like, considered one of the greatest guitar players in our city and maybe in the country or whatever, he plays the bass with us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, but I think he likes it. Yeah. I mean, the basses can be thought of as just a 4-string guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he plays the low 4-string guitar with us. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm always
So
suspicious of anybody who plays the 5-string bass. You know, it's like,
yeah, the people have not loved the 5-string bass. You know,
I don't know,
so,
just something goes against the grain.
yeah,
right?
but we're in an era where everything is permitted, so you know you got to be careful.
Yeah, I will be. Now, I'm interested in talking about your approach to your vocals, because you seem to.
Yeah.
I don't know under what circumstances are you recording those? Because you kind of go off into howling, and you know there's some stuff going on there. How do you get into that space where you can be that way?
That's just like what I want to do at that moment. Yeah, every time I sing a song, it's probably a little bit different, and sometimes it's hard. There's like always a little moment after I record something where I'm like, oh, now I'm locked into that, and I try and replicate it, and it doesn't work, and then I come to terms with that. And the same thing is happening, I think, in the recording studio. This last record was lovely because I haven't actually sang in the studio in, I don't know, a decade, maybe even more.
Okay.
Because I've always been very I've been like, oh, I don't want to waste someone's time, and I don't want them to hear, you know, just being too hard on myself. And there's something liberating about singing in this big open space that's tuned for music. Yep. And also then when you hit playback, the vocals are actually existing in the same room where the drums were recorded, right? And so like the room that we recorded in is actually like this kind of one of the only spaces left in Vancouver. Vancouver is a city that like psychotically rubs itself out every 5 or 6 years. So to have any space that kind of dates back to the
Auckland's kind of like that as well.
It probably is. Yeah. It's very rare. And this was a space where, I don't know, like Led Zeppelin was, and there were some Motown acts, and it has a really distinct decay to it. And so
that Afterlife Studios?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And it used to be known as Mushroom Studios, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Because Hart must have recorded there if they were Mushroom Studios.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was really wonderful to sing. Also, not just like sing in a space that's big, but also to have someone else. Like it's kind of a buzzkill to set up the microphone by your computer. First of all, you're looking at a computer. You might get an email.
That's so inspirational.
Yeah, there's nothing more inspirational than emails. Yeah. And it's completely not a performance at all, right?
Right.
And so, because I think people think of like, when like analog tape is a performance and digital isn't, but actually a performance is when some other human being is like witnessing you do this in real time. Yeah. Yep. And so it doesn't matter if it's digital or analog. I think that the key thing is to have an actual engineer who is, turning the knobs and that kind of thing. And, oh, that was okay. Let's try it again. Try it one more time. Most of the vocals are the first take, actually. Just whatever. Yeah. And I never sang a song more than 2 or 3 times. And we're like, okay, that's good. Yeah. So they're sung in a very short amount of time, which is really interesting because usually the vocals might take me months when I'm doing it myself. Right. Just because the space is not very nice, and you're just not very inspired. And there's a part of me that's like, I know I can do better. I know I can do better than this, So how wonderful it was to just go in and be like, oh.
Because you pretty much made the record in 4 days, right?
Yeah. So so it seems like going into a studio might actually cost more money. But if you think of time as having some inherent value, which you must.
Yes, you must.
You must, because, that capitalism is always trying to steal your time. So if it's trying to steal your time, then it must have some value.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. Now, speaking of the vocals, A Speck of Dust is a track that I was particularly impressed with your vocal. You almost sound like you become possessed at some point in there.
To the turrets, cried the gunners. Do the rat-a-tat-tat, bombers. I say yeah, but I say yeah, but I say yeah.
there's some kind of Nazgul screeches in there that return, which is nice. Yeah. I mean, it just kind of happens. Those, you know, they might sound like emotionally tortured, you know, but actually often those whoops are expressions of like joy.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I have an ecstatic party spirit in me right now. Yeah,
I'm nailing this.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or oh, yeah, totally. I'm nailing this. I wrote a song. We wrote a song. Like I'm recording it. I'm singing it. It's all still like, wow, that's really cool. Not at all have I lost a sense of how awesome it is to be able to make something just out of nothing, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm singing it and I'm like, wait, like I have a sense that this is probably going to be the take too, you know?
Yep.
And that's so amazing. And there's something about like, you know, do you know there's a filmmaker that I like named Tarkovsky, and his memoir?
Oh yes, I have a box set of his things.
Yeah, okay. So his memoir is called Sculpting in Time. And I think that's such an important idea for music, right? Because it really is captured time.
Right.
And so I'm in the middle of it. I'm 2/3 of the way through this performance, and I know it's probably going to be the take. And yeah, it's like can't even contain like that ecstatic energy, and it kind of whoops out of me. And in a way it kind of ruins the song in terms of it ever being a marketable thing, but also you know, it makes it gives it that ecstatic element, I hope.
Gotcha.
I feel yeah.
And I want to talk about the drumming a little bit. So obviously that's Melanie doing that. Is the drum, does that happen kind of similarly, do you think, or the way she reacts to what you're doing and vice versa?
Yeah.
One track in particular I wanted to touch on was A Rhyme for the Star, which had some excellent drumming, I thought, and pretty cool tunes overall.
When you rhyme for the star, and you rhyme for the empress and rings in the heavens, it perks her left ear to the dawn's quiet roar. And the children are sure they have marched as a roar. They are sick of the wicked and the violent and piss on what is beautiful.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, Melanie, like when we started out, she was a drummer's drummer, you know? And then now I think if you just exist long enough, you become part of the landscape, and you know, you're not going to catch anyone's eye, but I think that this felt like kind of a breakthrough for her, if I could speak for her. Yeah, she was able to do things that she's wanted to do for a little while, and just, you know, you practice something and then all of a sudden you can do it. Yeah.
So very cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. So the album's out on 28th. You got plans for the day?
Oh, I just today, like an hour ago, I looked at Mel. I was like, "Do you know our album is out next week? Isn't that cool?" Yeah, and I was like, "What should we do?" And Shyla is kind of like a not a sentimental person, but a person that would mark, like, you know, she's an archivist, right? So she marks the passing of things a little bit better. So I'm sure she'll be like, "We want to have a barbecue or something." Usually I say no to things like that, but this one maybe we will. Yeah,
sounds very rock.
I mean, yeah. Well, I always think it's weird. I remember, because I come from a smaller town, and occasionally there would be bands that all of a sudden pop out. You know, they're in everyone's talking about them or whatever. Yeah. And you sometimes on their record release day, you would see them walking around town together.
Right.
And you're like, I know what you're doing. You're just out.
You're just out. Just going off.
Yeah.
Well, you did a show at a place called the Rickshaw Theater a little while ago.
Yeah.
So how did that go? What was that like?
It was good. Yeah, it was fine. It was the first show we played in 3 years or something. Right. I just gotten over COVID. So I was a little bit, the post-COVID. That's just part of playing now, I think.
I think so, yeah.
And it was kind of odd, to be honest, everyone was having a whole bunch of little internal meltdowns of, oh my gosh, I'm in a room full of, lots of other people. Yeah.
It's still pretty, people are freaked out around here. They're still not going out. Everybody's kind of reticent about being in a crowded room in a bar and seeing live bands and all that.
I'm really interested by it because I think that a lot of what we do is just habitual, and a lot of what we do dates back to like maybe what we started to do when we were 18 or 19. And like, I'm getting close to 50 and I still go to gigs and now that there's been this break, I'm like, will I still go to gigs? Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's really hard because anytime you have a kind of rupture in your habitual behavior, it forces you to examine. Do I still even really want to do this? Do I just do this because it's something that I have been doing for? Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Club owners don't want to hear that.
Huh?
I said the club owners don't want to hear that. They want you out and about.
Well, no, I mean, they're like, it's not like people all of a sudden will decide that they don't like music, but I just think that it's kind of interesting to see like what will happen, because when people do return to music, they're not doing it because it's a habitual thing. They're doing it for its inherent value, which is like undeniable.
All right. All right. Well, hopefully, maybe come down to New Zealand. You can do a double bill with Soft Plastics or something. Right.
Maybe we've garnered some goodwill from them by
I'm sure they appreciate it.
I don't know. I'll send them an email someday and say,
I'll have to tag them into this when we post it so they can see it.
Yeah, they're cool. Yeah.
I think they're signed to Flying Nun, so they got to be good.
Well, they got to be good, right? Yeah.
Right. All righty. Well, thank you for spending so much time with me. Good luck with the record when it comes out. Have a good barbecue. Man. And we'll see ya.
Now I got to have a barbecue. Okay, bye. Yeah.
Bye-bye.